Hey, how's it going, everyone? Welcome to Mentor Monday. Mentor Monday is your weekly microdose of encouragement, inspiration, and miracle grow on your potential as a coach. As you're making it into the room, do me a huge favor. This is what we would like you to do. We would like you to say hello, tell us where you're joining us from, and maybe one thing that you're excited about that you feel life and momentum on in your life. We're just coming off of a boot camp weekend. It actually stretched to 2 weekends for the first time ever because, well, what happened is I was having some vocal strain problems. That's where I've been here recently working on those kinds of things. And so if I sound a little bit different, well, it's because it's still in the works and we're trying to make that happen. Best that we can possibly do, like with vocal training, which I probably needed a really long time ago, exercising, and then rest and all these other good things. So do me a huge favor. Let us know that you're here. Also, do us also another big favor. Like this post and share it. All of those activities, you commenting, you watching, you liking, and all of those other things tells Facebook and YouTube that we're doing a good job. And what that means is that they put us out there on the news feed so that people see us, so that when we pop up, obviously you can subscribe if you're on YouTube and you can get everything that we have, that we're putting together every week. You can just hit that subscribe button really quickly. And you can also look at our, vast archive of Mentor Mondays and different things that we have. Let me say hello to Kathy, who's joining us from Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Kathy was part of our boot camp this weekend, and we all had a blast. It was a lot of work. And it's like, whenever we do a boot camp weekend, we do a Friday, and then we do an all-day Saturday and an all-day Sunday. And so by the time it's all said and done, it's like drinking from a fire hose. But you knock out all of your training in a single weekend so that you can get your certification out of the way. But it's a lot of work, There's Sierra joining from Tampa, just checking in, staying connected. Hey, Sierra, thanks so much for joining us. We'll give it about 30 more seconds. And Sierra says, congrats to everyone that completed boot camp. Sierra did that work. She did that weekend with us. It was pretty intense, but she made it happen. Angie also joined us this weekend. Angie from Chicago. So congrats to you as well, Angie. Let me say hello to Ruth. How's it going, Ruth? And again, if you're just making it in, we haven't jumped into the content yet, but we would love for you to do us a couple of favors. One, like this post. If you're on YouTube, share it and subscribe over there. Also, if you comment, all of those things tell YouTube and Facebook that you're interested and that we're doing a good job. And that's our big thing when we're coming on here on Mondays is to, even though it's free, it's never fluffy. Always trying to do what I can to possibly encourage you, support you, whether that's going after coaching proficiency or that's on the business side and its skills and everything else. And another Angie joining us from Kansas City. How's it going, Angie? Well, cool. We'll keep those comments and everything rolling. Make sure that you let us know that you're here. I'm going to jump in to what we're talking about this week. Oh, there's Lawrence. Oh, let me say hello to a couple more people. Lawrence, who's joining us from Vegas. Linda, who's saying hello to us as well. Hey, how's it going, Linda? So, and there's Sandy from Dallas. Staying connected. Way to go. Michelle is joining us from San Diego. Looking forward to session 6 of the 6-week module tomorrow. That is correct. For the people who are part of the Life Coach Certification course, not only is it self-paced, but we do live training, rolling sessions every Tuesday. So you can get that training that way as well. Self-paced and live so that you can connect with us. That's all via Zoom so that you can actually ask your questions and all of those things. Bart's joining us from Centennial, Colorado. Been a little while, Bart. All right. So let's jump into what we're talking about this week. And we're talking about the coaching hamster wheel. And this may not be a phenomenon that you're familiar with. It's definitely a phenomenon that I have become familiar with since I've been training coaches over the last 10 years. And when I started out as a coach, because how did Life Coach Training Institute even come to be? Well, I'd gone out and I'd spent thousands of dollars getting trained and certified. And then after I got trained and certified, I basically had no money to get a business started because we're thousands of dollars in the hole at that point. And then I had no idea how to get a client. And so I'm going out there and I'm having to kind of confront a lot of things in me. I had to confront a lot of issues of self-doubt and everything else, while at the same time trying to figure out what strategy would actually work, because the schools that I went to, they left it up to you to try to figure out how you're going to get clients. They kind of give you your certificate from, and at the door kind of wave at you when you leave. And I really decided that that wasn't good enough. And plus, I also was thinking about the fact that why does coaching set people back so far in the hole financially? And also, there were a lot of people coming to me. Hey, Paul, how did you become a coach? How could I become a coach and everything else? And so that's when Life Coach Training Institute became a thing, is because of that. And then also getting pulled on during that time because I was actually successful at launching a coaching practice and I was doing really well. And then I had a lot of coaches that I was meeting that were thousands of dollars in the hole, and they didn't know their steps. And plus, the biggest factor that I saw, because I will tell you the dirty secret of our industry. You want to know what the dirty secret is? Is that a lot of people are getting trained and certified by programs and they have no idea how to get a client, and they can't overcome their self-doubt to go out and get clients. They weren't prepared for that and they weren't ready. Because the reality is that coaches, as I meet them, are lifelong learners. They're passionate about learning. And so that really satisfies something in them, going out and learning. The challenge, though, is that getting your certification is not your goal. It's not a goal. It's an objective. We're going to talk in real terminology. It's an objective. It's a vehicle to get you to your goal, because your goal is all about what? It's about helping people overcome. It's about helping people achieve results in their life, come into their destiny. This is part of your purpose. It's for people to come into what they were made to be. But in order to do that, you have to come into who you were made to be. And I realize that a lot of coaches didn't do some of that self-work along the way, and now they're running into barriers. And what I find is that there's coaches who end up in the coaching hamster wheel, where you set out to launch your career, but at a certain point, you're just spinning your wheels. So what does that look like? Well, here's really what it looks like. Let me say hello to a couple more people. There is Katie from Wichita, Kansas. Welcome, Katie. So what am I really talking about? Well, what is the hamster wheel? When I say it here, let me define it for you. It's that coaches are not lazy. Matter of fact, I find that coaches are really the opposite of lazy. What I really find about coaches is that when they're coming up against barriers that they have in terms of getting started, is that they will find activities, because they're not lazy. Coaches are amazingly busy people. Matter of fact, many of you are probably, spinning multiple plates right now. They're amazingly not lazy. And so they have this uncanny ability to be able to find activities, but unfortunately, those activities are being utilized to alleviate what I would call as the point of no return. What's the point of no return? Well, it's that point, that's that line in the sand, that if you go fully across that line, you are all in at that point, that you are fully committed. Now, did you notice what I said? That line that you step across is all about full commitment, because I don't believe that you can get in the hamster wheel and be spinning if you have really made a full commitment, if you've really taken that step across the chicken line, if you want to call it that, and you're actually committed to doing this thing. I'm going to say that again. I don't think that you can be in the hamster wheel spinning truly if you have crossed that chicken line past the point of no return. And what the point of no return is, it's that choice that you know that you are making when you face your fears, and there is the fear of failure, and everything else comes up, but you pass it instead of finding a way to alleviate it. So that's really what the hamster wheel is about. It's alleviating that feeling, because the hamster wheel symptoms kind of look like this. So if you're doing this, and I'm not saying for sure that you're in the hamster wheel, what I will say is these are what the symptoms look like. So if this is happening, it's conceivable that you are in the hamster wheel right now. You come to life brainstorming. Oh, you love to brainstorm and write down ideas and look at all kinds of stuff. but then you lose momentum when you're required to take action that is past all of that brainstorming and information gathering and everything else. That's a symptom that you're in the hamster wheel. Another symptom is you get all your ideas in place, but you lack the activation energy. Well, I hate when I stutter over a really great word like that. Let me see if I can say it again. You get all your ideas in place, but you lack the activation energy to actually start. What do I mean by that? Activation energy. You have all of this energy, but you know that for some reason that it's this burst. It's almost like your energy just kind of gets drained and it gets sucked out of you when you know that you're coming up to the chicken line. And so you do all of these things, and there's a lot of activity that's going on, and you burn all this energy. But that decision, that committal decision, is where you stop. Here's another symptom of the hamster wheel. You put a ton of work into something, but then you abandon all that work to start something new. Have you found yourself doing that? You got all these ideas. Maybe you thought through everything. You got your branding, your all of your website up and everything else. You've been putting all this work and effort into some kind of a product or a project involved with it and everything else. And then you know what? It just sits there, and you do all of this work and you look at it, and all of a sudden you don't know what it is, but there's this lag. There's usually a lull of a couple of days. You've got all of this work done. Maybe a whole week passes, maybe 2 weeks passes, and then all of a sudden, you just abandon everything that you've been working on, and then you go and try to start something new. Here's another symptom. Another symptom is life suddenly gets crazy, and you get busy doing other things, and you come back to coaching months or weeks down the road. That is a symptom, and it's a classic symptom of people who have come to that point of no return. And all of a sudden, it's like magic. As soon as you get to that place, all of a sudden life gets crazy. And here's the thing, is I hear this pretty commonly from coaches. This is why this is not, a surprise to me when people say, "Oh, I just got really, really busy and now I'm coming back." And then all of a sudden they're like, 2 months later or 3 months later, they had all of this momentum, and then all of a sudden their life got crazy. Now listen, I understand busyness, and I know things that come up. Reality is that we've got to choose our priorities, and we've got to choose things at that point. And see, when you come to that point of no return, it's a lot easier to choose the busyness, because you know what? Busyness gives me an excuse to step away because I'm getting uncomfortable right now. And so now I can find busyness and find all kinds of other things to do. Again, what did I say? Is that coaches aren't lazy. It's amazing how they can find things to do to alleviate that fear of failure, that fear of going forward. Here's another symptom, though. You stop working towards launching your coaching practice in order to get more training. Yeah, I need to get more training. All of a sudden, you've been working on this thing, and then something kicks in one day, and you're like, well, I think I'm going to go get another certification. Or maybe I need to go learn about this. Or maybe I need to get this add-on credential or certification over here. Or now all of a sudden, I'm joining this other kind of program over here that I don't get a certificate or anything else, but it's really going to help me be more marketable, and it's going to help me be more knowledgeable about something. See, you see how that creeps in? See, now you're starting to find activity to deal with some of the feelings that you're not enough. Some of the, I don't know enough. When the reality is you do know enough, and you've been trained enough. But it's easy to run away from your destiny and go find something that looks like more activity. And it feels good because activity feels like, well, I'm doing something and I haven't totally quit on my whole desire to be a coach. But activity in and of itself is procrastination. It's alleviating that symptom of fear, but it's only a matter of time that you know that your issue is not more training and it's not more education. The educational model will lie to you about that. And I'll say more about that in just a second. But the educational model will lie to you and tell you that if you have enough knowledge, then you're suddenly magically going to have confidence. Some of you have so much knowledge, you could be writing books and you could be doing speaking tours and everything else. You could probably write 5 books with all the knowledge that you have. Knowledge isn't the issue. And it's not going to feed your and it's not going to give you more confidence. You're in the coaching hamster wheel if you decide that you're going to put your coaching career on hold. You ever hear somebody say, well, I'm going to put this on hold right now and I'll come back to it. Nope, you're not going to come back to it. On hold permanently? Because I'll see coaches do that. And really what they're doing is that they're alleviating so that way they don't have to feel like they failed or they quit. So they'll use the word on hold to sound better about it. And then I'll hear from them, maybe a year later or something like that, 2 years later or whatever. See, these are the things that come up, and this is what keeps you perpetually in the hamster wheel where you are spinning, but you're not really making traction. See, what I want to help you do tonight is I want to either help you get off the wheel or make sure that if you're on the wheel and you didn't realize it, that I can help you get off, or that I can prevent you totally from getting on the wheel to begin with. Because the coaches who do coaching do it, and the coaches who don't do coaching find a way to distract themselves from putting themselves out there. And so here's how you get off the wheel. First off, it starts with this. You get off the wheel by recognizing that the issue is not a how-to problem. Because if your issue was actually a how-to problem in your life, all of your information gathering would have solved it by now, wouldn't it? Wouldn't all of those videos, wouldn't all those things that you've subscribed to, wouldn't all of those things that you've read, wouldn't all of the Mentor Mondays that you've been hanging around and checking in and commenting and all that stuff. See, if your information gathering is not leading to action, then you know it's not a how-to problem. Otherwise, it would have solved it, right? So we got to recognize the fact that we're not dealing with a how-to issue. There's a how-to for everything in the world, and there's more than one way to actually do something. And so I just want to help you check yourself on this thing. And only because I'm compassionate about coaches. I love coaches and I want you to do this thing, but your issue really isn't a how-to thing. Like, we've got great how-tos and I know they work because I've made over $1 million online and I'm a 6-figure coach. So I know that what I do works and it works for other coaches and everything else. So I can say that. I can't guarantee your result because I can't guarantee that you're going to follow through. Because it's never a how-to problem. How-tos are easy. Listen, starting a coaching practice and getting clients is easy. It really is. It's not hard. Our hard is up here. You know what hard is? Hard's living your life as it is right now. Hard is you know that you're called for something and you're not doing it. Hard is you're working a thankless job. Hard is you're working and putting crazy hours in for somebody else's dream, and it's not your dream, and it's also not leading to freedom, and it's not leading you to be generous to your family and a lot of other things. Hard is setting your dreams and everything aside, and it's bowing down to self-doubt. It's bowing down and having your dreams killed because of a critical spirit that you have towards yourself. That's hard. Starting a coaching practice really isn't, but you are going to have to confront and go against those things. So first off, is it's recognizing where you're at. The second thing is that I think that you need to find your source of self-doubt, because what you have to understand is that self-doubt is actually a learned behavior. Let me show you a picture really quick. You see that guy? Well, that's your coach about 44 years ago, something like that. I think I was 4 years old in this picture. Now, that 4-year-old version of myself, that one that you see right there. Now, my brother and sister for Christmas had gotten Polaroid cameras, like the original ones, I think. You know, I don't know how far Polaroid goes back in terms of the one-step cameras. It says Polaroid one-step cameras, and both of them got a gray and black one. And they didn't want to take pictures of me because they weren't interested in me. You can actually look right here, and there's all of these pictures that are actually on the dresser there. That my sister had been taking, and she was kind of organizing their stuff. And I wasn't in any of them. And so I was like, come on, Desi, take a picture of me. And so I love The Incredible Hulk. There was a TV show with Bill Bixby and Lou Ferrigno. And so I get there and I'm like, and granted, I apparently did not look in the mirror because there is nothing Incredible Hawkish about me except for that terrible green turtleneckish shirt that I'm wearing. There's absolutely no muscle density. There's nothing that's going on there. But I thought I had something to give. I thought I had something to bring. When you guys are this age, probably if somebody says, "Can you sing?" You probably are like, "Yeah, I can sing." "Can you dance?" "Yeah, I can dance." Can you throw this ball, and hit that object over there? "Yeah, I can do that." Could you be a doctor if you wanted to be? "Yeah, I could be a doctor." "Could you be a professional athlete?" "Yeah, I could do that." We did all of those sorts of things when we were kids. But see, something happened along the way for all of us that started informing what our value was, our worth was, and what was in the realm of possibility. Now, sometimes it was from well-meaning people. In many cases, it's our parents, it's our mom or our dad, or it's someone significant in our life. And whether they were trying to, because here's one of the things that parents will do sometimes. Sometimes it's definitely on the negative. Sometimes parents will say things, or people in your life will say crushing kinds of things that make you question whether or not you have it. And I understand that. But sometimes people just say and do things because they're trying to protect you from having your heart broken or from something happening to you. One of the things that I decided some years ago to stop doing with my daughters is don't tell them to slow down when they're running. Because I was always like, I watch my kids and I'm watching my little girl running while she's wearing flip-flops, which is a really bad idea. They're like, don't run, slow down, don't run, look out for that step or whatever. And so I'm saying all this well-meaning because I'm thinking running in flip-flops is a really, really bad idea. But what can come across to a young person is, well, I don't believe that you can do it, and you need to be afraid because it's very possible you're going to fall on your face. See, it's really helpful for us to figure out what are the voices that we're still hearing that's informing whether or not we can do things. And it's really important for you to know where you heard these kinds of things, because it probably happened. There might have actually been an instance, there might have been a memory or whatever. And you know what I can do to those memories? I can go back into those memories and I can redeem those things, because you know what we do? It keeps us, what those memories are meant to do, they're meant to keep us in place. And what happens is that when you put yourself out there during that time and you either had doubt or something happened against you, you know what your brain did? Your brain said, we're not going there again because that was dangerous. You didn't get affirmed when you did that. You got rejected when that happened. So you're going to look like a fool. You're going to look like an idiot. All of those things kind of like kick in. And you know what? They start setting the boundaries. And that's where the chicken line comes from. Right? It is literally a boundary. It's a place of safety, because you know what you do? You do the things that you know how to do. Because when you were a kid, you didn't know how to do anything. You didn't know how to ride a bike. You didn't know how to blow a bubble, right? You didn't know how to shoot a basketball. You didn't know how to write. I mean, seriously, you didn't know how to walk. Imagine if you decided when you were little that, you know what, it's just not for me to walk. Everybody else walks, but I'm just going to be the one that doesn't walk. Like every human being can walk, but I'm going to be the outsider and I'm never going to walk. Well, you know what? Fortunately, when you were a kid, you didn't take failure permanently or personally. You kept trying, and you know how you learned to walk? With a bunch of bruised chins and knots on your head, running into tables, falling, and all of those other things. Because if you understand what walking is now, what is walking? Well, it's falling constantly, except your foot finds the ground and stabilizes every time. That half the time your walk is unsteady because you're only on one foot. It's actually a really dangerous proposition. If you stood around on one foot, couldn't someone knock you over? Couldn't something happen? So literally when you're walking, you're actually vulnerable every time that you're taking a step. I don't know if you ever thought about that. But see, when you're a kid And there's encouragement because what did our parents do? Remember, they're celebrating a step, even though we look like Frankenstein doing it and stiff. They celebrated those things. Unfortunately, we don't see, in many cases, failure or imperfection as something to celebrate, but we really should. So it means that we need to go back to some of these places and we need to redeem some of those different thoughts and memories about ourselves. See, the other way that you get off the hamster wheel is that you've got to discover the story that you keep telling yourself that makes you shut down at the point of no return. And there is a story. There's a story about the world. Oh, well, I don't think that anybody would pay all this money for coaches because it's not a great economy. I started my coaching practice after being laid off for 6 months and my family going homeless. What excuse do you have? You're not going to be able to come up with one for me. I'm sorry. I had to deal with that true failure that was close in my life because it directly, listen, we had to go to food banks, food pantries. I know what that feels like. And to think that you can go start something in that economy, except that that's what I did. And things are much better. It's so much easier to start a coaching practice now because you have access to billions of people and a lot of platforms to be able to do it. We really didn't have an idea of how to do those things. And nobody was doing it well. And very few people were actually doing it virtually back then in those days. And so you can do this thing. What's your story about the world? What's your story about other people? Oh, they would never respond to me. They don't, people don't believe in me. If you're out there feeling awkward, people, I'm awkward with people. They always judge me. They don't like me. All of these things. So we have a narrative about people and whether or not they would pay for something, see the value in something. They can't afford something. There's not enough money. There's not enough people who have the money to afford this. I don't know enough people who have money. I'm not very influential. I don't know enough people. All of these different things that we have. What's your story about yourself? That's probably the biggest story. I could never be successful. I'm an idiot. I'm not pretty enough. I'm not eloquent enough. I'm not really good at designing websites. I'm not really good at what I'm essentially not enough. Whatever that story is what, whether it's a true story or not, does not even matter. Matter of fact, most of the things that we talk about, I get so many hypothetical questions from coaches all the time. Hypotheticals, not stuff that they have experienced firsthand. And they'll say, what happens if? Well, what would you do if? And I'm like, can you give me a specific example of that? And they never can because it's not even happening in their life. Well, what do you do if, what do you do if somebody tells you that they can't afford it? What do you do? And it's like, why don't you just go and do it? And then you find out what you can do, right? Maybe sometimes you don't sit around thinking, well, what would it look like if Well, who cares about what it would look like? You'll find out what it looks like when you actually start doing it. And when you actually start doing it, you surprise yourself and you blow yourself away with it. Listen, everything that you've done in your life, ever, you had to do for a first time and maybe a dozen times or dozens of times before it felt like you developed the muscle of it. Everything. And a lot of those things are against your will. School was against your will. Do you remember any of you had parents that said, you got to go to school. It's the law. You'll go to jail. That's what my parents told me. Man, I just don't really feel like going to school. Well, you got to go to school. Why do I have to go to school? It's nothing that I'm going to learn and ever use in life. You've got to go to school, Paul. I understand. You got to go to school, Paul, or you're going to go to jail. And then that would be kind of like the final thing. Oh, I'm going to go to jail for not going to school or whatever. Everything. There was things throughout our life that was against our will and pushed on us, and we learned. Crying through algebra, like many of us did, crying through writing papers and research stuff and everything else, making up fake resources because we couldn't find 20 resources for a paper or whatever. Some of you are guilty of that. I was an English major. I know what that looks like. So what are we really saying in all of this? Is that everything that you've ever done and everything that was worthwhile actually caused you to confront things, and in the past you didn't have a choice in the matter. Matter of fact, sometimes there was a threat lurking behind you, which was your mom or your dad, and things are going to get even worse. And so it was the pain or pleasure thing. I can either like not apply myself over here or get killed by my parents. And so I'd rather, this sucks, but at least I'll still be alive. Now, who's going to hold you accountable for those things? You're going to have to find accountability in your life. I understand that, but that's going to be part of it. What's the story that you're telling? Change your story, you change your life. And I have a whole video about just simply that. If you look back, I think it was for what I did for the first series of 2021, I believe, or 2022. Here's the next thing, is that you've got to establish a new narrative. So we know what the story is that we're telling. We got to establish a new narrative, which means new thinking, and it means new action that is required for you to move forward. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you this on a whiteboard. It's going to be so pretty because a lot of times I'll show this to our coaches, but for those of you who have not seen it. So what we have to understand is that in your life, as it is right now, this is right here. This is your now kind of life, right? This is the present. So here's the present. But you know what also it is? It's also your future. Because what you have going on in your life right now is that you have thinking. So you got thinking and you've got action. And then you have a thought and you have an action. And you keep having, because what do we know? Is that most of your thinking is not new. 99% of your thinking is the same thoughts that you had the day before and the day before that and the day before that. And what we do is that thinking informs our action. Let me see if I can lock this in place so it doesn't move anymore. So thinking actually informs our action. You will never think outside of the alignment of what you believe, So to get permanent change in the way that we act means that we've got to have a new thought. If you don't like the actions and you don't like your life, then have a different thought and then you'll have a different life, right? Now, if I want to establish new thinking and new action, all I really have to do is to think about, what do I want to be? So if I want to become this version, if this is the fullest potential, if this is me maximizing all of my skills and my abilities and my gifting and everything else, all I have to do is to go up just a little bit higher, which means that on this level, I have to have a different thought about myself. I have to have a different thought about the world. I have to have a different thought about people. I have to have a different thought about myself. It starts with your thinking, because there is not consistent action. That's why it's not a how-to problem, because action is not enough to help you get to your fullest potential. That means that right now what you can do is to say, whatever it is, throw a number out there. I want to be a six-figure coach next year. If you decided today and you committed, and to go past the chicken line is to say, I am going to choose today. I'm fully committed and I'm going to go all in to be a six-figure coach. What does it require in you? What thoughts do you need to have about yourself that are higher and are different than these thoughts right here? And how do you need to show up in your life? What action is required? What difference in the way that you act and the way that you show up? What time do you have to wake up in the morning? What kind of habits do you need to have? What kind of consistency do you have to have in your life? See, I don't have to go off to the far reaches of space to try to pull this down and figure it out. You right now could probably sit there and think, if right now I'm in my state of thinking and action, if you stay there, and this is what a lot of coaches do, this is why the hamster wheel is killing the dreams of coaches, is that they think that they're going to become this while thinking and acting in this way. And it's never going to happen. That's why if I said, hey, do you believe that you could, and for some of you, do you believe that you could become $1 million coach? Most of you would tell me no. And it would be easier just to say, well, that's not my goal in life. Well, do you think that you could be a six-figure coach? Do you think that you could make $50,000 a year as a coach? Do you think you could make $25,000 a year as a coach? See, it's an important, and I'm just using money just because it's quantitative, right? I'm saying that because there is a certain thinking that goes along with those numbers, and there's certain actions that go along with those numbers. And you know that it's going to require higher thinking and higher action to make 6 figures than it would 25,000. I mean, that's not, it's not anything major. It's just basics, right? It's going to require different thinking and different action. So whatever your goal is, and that's where you need to start, whatever this goal is, making it tangible, you know that right now for it to come to fruition, I got to think differently and I've got to act differently. And so what is that? And so what that means also is that you've got to start implementing those things in your life right now. It's got to become a discipline. You know what? It doesn't take me 10 years to start thinking that way. I can choose to think that way. I can choose to relate to myself and my business. I can show up in that way. I can wake up in the morning that way. There's nothing that I need to learn. I can think it, and I can say, here's the way I need to think, and here's the actions that I need to take. And you know what I do is that I implement discipline in all of those areas. But it also means that when I say discipline, the thinking that I have these days, I went to war against thinking that I had that made me doubt myself. I went to war against every thought that told me I was not good enough. And I've got a lot of stories and I've got a lot of instances of pain and everything else that I could go draw from if I wanted to inform my future. But I finally decided at one point, this can't be anymore. I mean, that a chunk of my adult life was spent struggling to get by and not being able to say yes and be generous to my family, and being afraid and not putting myself out there because I thought about what people's opinions were and I wanted to people please and everything else. And I went to war against those things. How did I do it? Well, you get to decide and you get to focus on anything that you want to think about. And I started writing up, what did I need to think about to be at that higher level? And how did I need to act? But I focused on the thinking, because if you get the thinking out of the way, the actions always follow them. They take care of themselves. So I just focused on those thinkings, I mean, I've got an old one sitting here, told our coaches, I was old school. So I made them in this way because I'm not very good at digital remembering things when I see things digitally. And back in those days, you didn't have but I still like the tangible things. I still carry them around to this day. What do I want? And I started speaking those things over myself. Why does that work? Because you're already speaking over yourself every day. You're already thinking things that are it's predictable that you are going to be at this place and that you won't become, because you still think the same negative things about yourself and you still say negative things about yourself because you're not going past the chicken line. You're not going past the point of no return. So I can diligently and intentionally set time to expose myself, to remind myself, to speak things over my life, and to speak things that I want to hear and I want to become, rather than sitting around afraid all the time and having all this junk floating around in my head. I mean, if it sounds like you got to be a crazy person to be just speaking out loud over yourself, well, why don't you write down some of the crazy thoughts that you truly do have about yourself right now and tell me who's crazy? Me saying something positive over my life that I want to become, or sitting over here quietly thinking all the negative, terrible things about myself, but pretending like I'm all okay? Yes, we don't have voices in our head that are telling us that we're no good. I mean, seriously. Let's keep talking about how to get off the hamster wheel. Again, establish a new narrative, new thinking, new action that's required for you to move forward. And here's the last thing, is that you've got to start immediately. You got to have a clear action that represents an irrevocable choice. Because getting trained and certified as a coach is not an irrevocable choice. You could just, hey, I went and got that training. I went and got that certification. Now I'm done. See, here's the thing about the educational model, and I'm going to keep saying this until you coaches get it that have been around. But in the surgical model, the way that we used to do it in this country, I don't know if they still do it this way. They would always say, watch one, do one, teach one. So what they said is, if you watched a surgery, that you're already competent to do one. And then you do one, and that means that you're competent enough to teach somebody what you just did. Now, a lot of people would be like, well, I don't want somebody doing a surgery on me for it's their first surgery ever. Well, that happens. Do you realize that? People who got knee replacements, who got transplants, all kinds of different things. Somebody had a first time. Somebody had a test subject to be able to learn. And so they knew in surgery that the longer that somebody just sits around and observes and just sits around reading books on physiology and everything else, the less likely it is that you'll ever do anything. See, this is what I understand as well for coaches. If you've already been in this thing for a year and you have no clients, almost unlikely that you will ever do anything unless you confront this thinking that you have going on in your life. I understand that. The longer as the months go by, you are more in your head. A month later, 2 months later, 3 months later, 6 months later, and you're not confronting your self-doubt, you're doing all of these things. Listen, you can get off the wheel. This is what I'm telling you. I'm not saying anything fatal about you, and I'm not saying that you can't become a coach. I'm saying it's less likely because I know that someone's in their head because it's not a how-to and it's not anything else. And if that's you, I'm calling you out today. You better believe it. You need to get out of your head. You need to confront the self-doubt because it's killing your future. And if you have children and you have family and you have people that you're representing in life that are looking to you, you better go after that thing because their life depends on it. They need to have someone who doesn't make excuses, who doesn't look back at what other people said about them, at failures in their life. How can we tell people to overcome your failures if we're still allowing it to inform our future? I am passionate about this thing because I'm tired of seeing people live small. I'm tired of seeing people not live into their potential. And you've got to know that I care. So if you think that I'm being all intense and everything else, listen, I'm sorry, but somebody's got to say it. And maybe I'm the only person who'll say that to you in your face tonight, is that you've got to go after this thing for your own sake. You will never feel joy in your life until you know your assignment and you are living in your assignment on this planet. Nothing else is going to give you joy. Everything else is going to be settling. And I can't help it that your heart's never going to feel full. And I should be telling you that, right? If I'm a good friend to you and I care at all, I should be telling you that settling and being safe is never going to fulfill your life. Going after the thing that you know that you're supposed to be doing, that's the only thing that can fulfill you. You know why? Because you're hardwired for that thing. You can't change it. You can't change your wiring. It'll just be there. So I hope that you'll take my passion as something that I really care, and I love coaches. I love you for what it's worth, and I want to see you come into it. Hey, for those of you who have not gotten trained and certified as a coach, let me say this, is that we walk alongside you in this thing. I know that a bunch of the stuff that gets in your head comes from just being by yourself and trying to start fresh, and you don't know what the how-tos are. And that's very valid. I understand that. Because a lot of times the people that we're walking with don't understand the journey, don't understand what coaching is. And then you got some people who never try to step in their life past anything that was safe. And now they're going to say, well, no one's going to be interested in that. Is that a real thing or whatever? Hey, don't take advice from people who aren't stepping across the chicken line in their own life. That should tell you something. Okay. So all this saying, keeping it positive, right? Is that we do have a plan and we do have a process that actually works, and we do it inside community. And we do it in an affordable way so that you're not thousands of dollars in the hole. Yes, we could charge thousands of dollars for this. We don't. We don't have a sales team because I don't have to pay a sales team. Every time, it's the way we do all these things online, and we put resources in front of you to be able to access 24/7 and everything else is our effort to give you the best of the best while also not making it where you feel like, okay, this is insurmountable when it comes to the money and everything else. Because not only are you going to have the step of A to Z, but it's also affordable, so it's not going to blow you out of the water. So let me tell you what that is really quick, and then I'm going to look and see if we have any questions that I need to interact with. It's $97 a month with a 3-month minimum commitment. That's not even $300 if you only stayed with us 90 days. You can stay with us past 90 days. It's just not required. What do you get? You get the Life Coach Certification course. So you do get trained and certified. The Life Coach certification course in and of itself are the 7 core modules, and we do it in an accelerated format. That's how we roll it into 7 sessions that roll each week. Every Tuesday, we go through these sessions live, but you also have access to them self-paced. Foundations of coaching, the anatomy of a dynamic coaching session, how to help your clients get extraordinary results, how to listen on a transformational level, how to ask powerful questions, how to establish a growing coaching practice. We do live coaching demos. We have live Q&As at the end of those every Tuesday at 5 p.m. Pacific, at 7 Central, 8 p.m. Eastern. That way you can join us live. But you have all of these modules self-paced if you would rather go that way. And I know that 90-something% of our students do that, but we want you to know that you can connect with us to the degree that you want. Meet other students, connect with me, ask your questions so that you're not making mistakes as you start, and you don't feel like you're on your own. You also get boot camp, and obviously this date just passed, but boot camp is our weekend accelerator program where we go through all 7 of those modules and you get trained and certified in the weekend. So you can knock all your training out, and then you just have to turn in your assignments and take the exam, and you're all done. But we also are really heavily focused on the business side of coaching, because that's going to be 90% of your business when you start. Brand Camp is what we do it's a step-by-step on your marketing messaging. And we show you everything from how to develop your website, search engine optimization, how to write a sales page, how to write an email. There's all kinds of tools and bonuses. We bring you from discovering your niche to every component of your marketing message so that you're doing that really effectively. And again, I've been really successful. Our coaches who utilize this messaging, it's really clear in seconds who it is that they help, what problems they help people solve, and what's the next step that people need to take to work with them. We also launched this course last year called the Coaching Product Launch Blueprint, and it's 8 sessions. It's over 10 hours of walkthrough that if you want to create a coaching product of any sort, a course or a webinar or a group coaching or whatever, we bring you from idea to launch in 8 sessions. We give you all these tools that completely walk you through the process of brainstorming, of choosing which one has the most life. How are you going to deliver it? Are you going to do it online, in person, whatever? And we'll bring you all the way to the 14-day product launch sequence. So what we do is that we show you how to do a pre-launch all the way to actually, whether it's launching your coaching practice or launching the product, how do you do social media posts? How do you do emails? All of those things. Jumpstart, again, is $97 a month. It's with a 3-month minimum commitment. You get the A to Z business development roadmap. You get all the courses that I just mentioned. You're going to know how to discover your niche, how to attract clients. You're going to have a weekly strategy and know what you're supposed to be doing, whether you're going to be a traditional coach or a fully online coaching practice. All of these things are included in that price, including certification. Nobody's doing all of this. I say that with a lot of pride and joy, that we don't substitute quality, and we don't cut down quality for the price. Everything is there. You can get your practice up and going in 90 days. If you're willing to come in and get trained and certified and put in the work and connect with people, you can absolutely do this thing. But you got to get off of the hamster training wheel to do that. So let me say hello to a few more people who are in here that I haven't said hello to. Sierra says, I'm so happy I joined tonight. I need to be here and hear this. Very cool. Tara says, oh boy, I need to hear this class. Sandy says, this is hitting home for me tonight. I jumped on just in time. Let's see. Thank you, Maggie. Uh-oh. Bart says, I feel attacked. Hashtag on hold. Hey, Karna. Thank you for joining us tonight. And Nora, hello. Who else do I need to say hello to? Diane from South Carolina. And Sierra says, I feel like I just want things to be perfect. I also had a revelation. I decided to change my niche and be a cycle breaking coach, focusing on female and family empowerment. So I had to recreate my site and all of my previous work, but it's so exciting and easier and comfortable. And I'm so much more comfortable. Awesome. Kathy says, very powerful. Going to war against the negative thinking. Very cool. Oh, I appreciate that, Angie. Angie says, this is the push I need. This is why I chose this program over others. Thank you. Appreciate that. Awesome. And there's Lonnie joining us from Southern California. Cool. All right. Sandy says, thanks for the encouragement. I need to get out of my head. Awesome. Well, here's the thing. You know what to do, right? I'll say it again. You know what to do. Going past the chicken line stretches you, and you relate to yourself completely different on the other side of that line. That's one thing that I can tell you, and it'll be an encouragement for you. The chicken line is just a chicken line. It's a nothing. Step across it, and now I've become who I wanted to be the entire time, because that you is actually past that line. This you that you're relating to can't get you the results that you want in your life. You're eating the fruit of those things right now. That's what I'm trying to tell you. This you that's keeping it safe and easy and comfortable is not going to change the world, because it's programmed to do what it's already been doing. That new you that you believe is there, and I believe is there, exists over here. And when you take that step, the irrevocable choice in your life, you will defeat fear and self-doubt altogether in one fell swoop, and you will relate to yourself in a different kind of way. This is the encouragement I want to give you tonight. Something that tonight I'm very passionate about, and I've been thinking more and more about. And if this is the kick in the butt that you needed, man, I want to see what's going to come out of your life after this. But you got to make a choice tonight. Like you've got to actually do something tonight that starts putting you past the chicken line. Not tomorrow. While the iron is hot, while the fire is still in your heart, you need to do it. Listen, I appreciate you guys immensely. Have a great rest of your week, and take care.